So, being a Canadian and studying as an international student in the US, I often get asked, why did I choose to study in the United States and why did I choose Mississippi State University? And we're going to go through that all in this next series of videos. So, starting off with being a Canadian. In Canada, we have five vet schools: Université de Montréal in Quebec, University of Guelph in Ontario, we have Atlantic Veterinary College in the Maritime Provinces, University of Saskatchewan has one, and University of Calgary for the Western Provinces. Now, how it works in Canada is you have to apply to the vet school in your province. So everyone who is a resident of Quebec applies to Université de Montréal. All the maritime provinces apply to Atlantic Veterinary College. Ontario goes to Guelph. Manitoba, Saskatchewan to Saskatchewan, and then Alberta, BC, and some of the Northern Territories are zoned in for the Calgary applicants. Now, the unfortunate thing is, unlike the United States, where you are zoned as in-state or out-of-state, and you can choose to apply, it just comes at a different cost. In Canada, you cannot apply as an out-of-state or out-of-province applicant to the other schools. As such, a Quebec resident cannot apply to Guelph, and a Guelph resident cannot apply to Quebec. So this really limits the scope of where Canadians can go to vet school. There are a few loopholes around that we're going to go through now. So step one is, it is not an absolute no in Canada. You are able to, as a Quebec resident, if you were to have dual citizenship with another country, or your parents have heritage from somewhere else and you have the second passport, you can apply as an international student to another provincial school. As such, example, I am a Quebecer. I could have a dual citizenship with another country, being Canada and some other place. Now, if I wanted to apply to Guelph, I would have to apply as an international student. Now, the fees of international student are ridiculously high. As such, a lot of Canadians, if they're not going to go to their home provincial school, will look to go abroad. Now, in my specific case, again, being a Quebecer, our only option is Université de Montréal in Saint-Hyacinthe, which is a French school. Nothing wrong with that. It's a great opportunity. However, there are a lot of non-French speakers in Quebec, or those who are, even if they do speak French or fluent in French, are not comfortable going to school in French, don't want to meet the certain requirements required to stay and practice in Quebec, and want to be able to go abroad. So, as such, a lot of schools advertise for Quebec students, such as the Caribbean schools, St. George's in Grenada, Ross, I believe, in St. Kitts, a lot of Australian schools through Austrek, like University of Melbourne, University of Sydney, all come and advertise to Quebec University, specifically where I did my undergrad at a very well-known English university, McGill University. They advertise for vet students there because they know that there are a ton of English-speaking Quebecers who go to McGill, who have dreams of becoming a veterinarian, but will not complete the veterinarian process in Quebec due to the language requirements. As such, these schools come and market their school and the application process and everything to the English students. Myself, having gone through my undergraduate degree at McGill with aspirations of becoming a veterinarian, I attended a lot of these seminars and a lot of these kind of lunch and learns where they would advertise how to apply to our school, how to get into the school, what are the costs associated with going to vet school in Australia, vet school in the Caribbean. And I'll be honest, they sounded great. They were really cool. And I was really sold on applying to the Caribbean schools or the Australian schools because I thought this was my only option as an English Quebecer. However, upon looking further into it, I was like, let me just see what it looks like in the United States, because in my head I had been told that it was very, very expensive. But when I started looking into it, it was actually cheaper to apply to go to a United States veterinary school than it was to go to a Caribbean school or an Australian school, or to go as an international to another Canadian school. As such, at that moment, it became clear to me, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to apply to the United States. This is the best option. So I started looking around and looking at different schools. And all that to say, to get to our first point of advice is, look at all your different options. Never limit yourself. I was supposed to only be zoned in Canada to apply to Université de Montréal. Now, that became not the best option. I looked at what my options were for the rest of Canada. I saw the price tag associated with it and realized it was not ideal. I looked at the advertisement that was in front of me for the Caribbean schools and Australian schools, and they looked like they had great programs and great reviews. People loved them. However, when I started looking more and saw the price tag associated with it, I turned and discovered the United States schools and realized, for similar prices, sometimes even less prices, you could be closer to home and be in the United States. So for me, it became a no-brainer that as a Canadian who wants to go abroad to vet school, American schools are the way to go. Now, some might feel that's a difficult process. How do I go about applying and everything? It becomes real simple. When you're applying to any veterinary school in the US, many in the Caribbean, several in Australia, I think there's even one or two in the UK, and a few Canadian schools are all on the VEMCAS website, the Veterinary Collegiate Medical, I'm not sure what it stands for, but VEMCAS. All vet students will have to apply through it. You upload all your documents to it. We'll have another video taking you step by step how to apply through the VEMCAS application.